I don't know what forecasts I have for 2024. The safe one is things will continue to move too slow. People will continue to make things overly complicated. Or, inversely, maybe I try to make them too uncomplicated, too simple. I'm interested to see how the DY guys progress. That'll be fun to watch, because I still don't understand the true business model of the DY space. Either meeting some of them so they can explain it to me, or just seeing something that seems successful. That would be great. Here's a stretch forecast. I used to work at Dell. I forecast that they're going to come out with an actual, real live, commercially viable product in the wireless space. Not associated with servers, not associated with their normal software partners that sit on their servers. Like a true, real wireless product. 2024. That would be fun to see.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Grand Slam Journey podcast, where we discuss various topics related to Grand Slam journey of sports, business, and technology. Today's episode is with Trevor McLaughlin. Trevor and I recorded an earlier episode back in September, early October, episode number 52. And I thought it might be fun to reflect on the year and talk about cold plunging, the move to Texas, and wireless connectivity private networks. I hope you enjoyed the listen. If you do, please share it with someone you believe may enjoy it as well. Consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. It has been a busy year of podcasting for me. My goal has been to release one episode a week to see if I can gain efficiencies. Well, I have certainly gotten better, but the efficiencies aren't completely where I still want them to be. It takes a lot of time and effort, not the recording itself. Those are super fun and in many ways quite easy. I appreciate you listeners tuning in, and I appreciate many people reaching out and wanting to be guests on my podcast. It means a lot. And I currently have more interest in guest joining than I have episodes in a week to launch, which I understand is a privileged position to be in. So thank you again for you all tuning in. And it really means a lot to me if you could share this podcast with someone you believe may enjoy it as well. I have not been investing in marketing. And so all the listenership to date has been because of you and you all sharing it with somebody else by word of mouth. So thank you. I hope you all have Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, if you celebrate it. If not, I hope you get to enjoy the time off without much work. And if you are in jobs, such as retail jobs, which is the busiest time of the year, I hope you get to enjoy some downtime, perhaps later in January. So I hope you have some time to reflect and start 2024 full of energy and drive to achieve whatever goals you set for yourself. This is your host, Klára Jagošová. Thank you for tuning in, and now I bring you Coffee Chat with Trevor McLaughlin. Hello, Trevor. Happy Friday. Welcome to Grand Slam Journey podcast.
Welcome to you too.
We're doing episode 2. This will be a little bit shorter one. How's your cold plunge this morning?
Haven't cold plunged.
You haven't cold plunged today yet?
That's what I just said.
I know.
Well, weirdly enough, still the answer.
All right. How was your cold plunge yesterday?
Cold. Yours?
It's been really cold the past couple of days. I don't know why.
I know. Weird, right? Cold plunge. Weird. Cold.
Yes.
Phew. Who would have thought?
But you've been cold plunging now for, since I think August or end of July? Have you seen any benefits?
I get cold every morning. That benefits me quite a bit.
How?
Well, makes me appreciate when I'm warm.
Okay.
Also prepares me for the cold. Not really. I'm still cold in the cold, too. Yeah. I've seen a 37% reduction in brown fat over that time.
You haven't.
Yeah. My metabolistic health markers have increased by 16% over that time.
I think it's metabolic.
Yeah, whatever. I'm making it up. So I was adding metabolic and ballistic so that it seemed better.
Like ballistic movement and metabolic health? You combined it all together?
Yeah, not ballistic movement. I was thinking ballistic from like a gun ballistics.
Okay.
Yeah, which I'm not even sure what the word means exactly. So I don't know if it makes it better or worse. But metabolic is the word I'm using. And 16% is the stat I'm going to stick with on this one. So there's that. The actual only benefit that I've been able to truly measure is lack of neck aches, which make no sense to me still. But that's the real answer. I like the other answers better though.
But that's a pretty good one for you, no?
No, it's good. You get these health things that people talk about, and then they become these fads and crazes, and then they usually die, and then a new one takes its place. The part that's lacking really is still any real world data out of it. So we still lack the ability to quantify anything we do. It's really quite depressing. To take it to a show, TV show, they used to be able to shoot rockets on this show up to the moon, but they didn't have a video call capability that was worth actually having. It was all grainy and like black and white. So you would think if you could shoot a rocket to the moon and live on the moon, you could have a good quality video call. Turns out on this TV show, no. Good quality video calls come later. Rockets come first. And maybe this is how it worked in real life too. I just expected more. My point being, we have all of this stuff, supposedly, that can make us recover faster or feel better or prolong our life, but no way to actually easily monitor it. With the exception of maybe the dude on YouTube that spends $2 million a day or a month or whatever he does for longevity. I don't know what he's measuring, though. And I don't have $2 million even a year to spend on measuring. So what I'm saying is we need to really focus on how do we measure something usefulness, which I think actually applies to the rest of life too. So didn't expect this out of this question, did you?
No.
All right.
Which makes me think a little bit though, if measuring things for us is natural, I wonder how much we're just driven by our emotions and how we feel. And so going back to the Thinking Fast and Slow book, we're not statistical human beings most of the time. Our actions or inactions are driven by our emotions and how we feel and the experiences we have lived through. So I wonder if this is just manifesting across everything we do, whether it's cold plunging or business or any other areas that we should be measuring, but we don't know how.
Well, I don't think we need to over-measure because then you just have a data lake that's useless. But it would be nice to have some kind of measurement tools.
Yeah.
Blood glucose, that's a great one. Like, why can't that be easy? And why is it an FDA product? A great example, though. Ketone levels. That would be fun.
Yep.
You could do that, I would think, with the blood glucose. Make it together.
How would you do it? You would put a chip in your body?
I'm not a scientist, but it should be able to be done.
Mm.
Shouldn't be that hard. Maybe there's no money in it. I don't know. Or maybe the way that people want to monetize it. There's money. They just haven't figured out how to monetize it in a way that makes sense. Don't really know the answers. It just can't be that challenging. And it doesn't need to be like 5 nines accurate.
Yeah.
Because we have 0 nines accuracy right now.
Yes.
So maybe get some product out there and incrementally improve it over time. I mean, that's what they do with software, right? Apple releases a new iOS or Android or anybody, Windows, has tons of bugs. 3 days later, they introduce the first patch. And then like a couple weeks later, there's another patch. And then a couple weeks later, there's another patch. Tesla, I mean, they're always sending out updates.
Yes.
Iterate over time. Make it better. So just start with something.
Mm-hmm. I do agree it would be nice to have some sort of glucose, ketone, continuous measurements. Going back even to the cold plunge, it's one of the things I've been thinking about, wondering how much it spikes my glucose from the stress when I'm sitting there. So it'll be fun to see. But then going back to the accuracy, I know how frustrated you are with all of these wearables that you have tried and had, and you say they're not accurate. So if they're not accurate, you just don't want to wear them at all. So that goes a little bit against what you're saying now.
Yeah, the accuracy on those is heart rate. And I don't know why they haven't figured that out yet. That seems like heart rate monitors have been around forever. I don't know how they could be so far off. Or I'm an anomaly, which I would think statistically is impossible. But, yeah, if my heart rate shows as 206, I'm not sure it's accurate. It seems a little bit high.
Your heart rate does weird things, I agree.
On all devices.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wonder if you're really so weird. Anomaly.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, there's a chance of it, but I doubt it. I think they just don't work well. But with that being said, if you stick with the same device and you know that it's inaccurate, you at least have some kind of baseline to go off of. It just would be nice to see the incremental improvement in that getting better. And that, for some reason, doesn't seem to ever get better with any device that I ever use over time. That's the part that's missing. I said, start wherever you want, but improve it over time. And then that's the part that doesn't seem to happen. But back to the overall device, maybe it's just an overall hormone thing. Now, then you got let's say you can do hormones and glucose, ketones. But again, then what do you do with it? Because how do you correlate it to anything? Other than you read a book, one book says this, another book says something else. But do we actually know, truthfully, what the hormones actually mean at the different levels? So if you could actually, let's theorize for a second or ponder, if you had a device that collected whatever the top 10 hormones are in your body. I don't even know if there are that many, but let's say there are. Let's say they were even accurate. Then what does it mean? You can see it. It goes up and down, changes, stays the same. You don't have any. I don't know. It gives you the data. But then you actually got to figure out, okay, what does this mean?
In regards to your own baseline, because you can always compare it to what the scientists believe is the right levels.
Yeah, but do they know? Because if you can't monitor it all the time, aren't they just making a whole bunch of assumptions and guesses? It's like eggs. The scientists say eggs are bad for you. And then they say, oh no, you can have 2 eggs a day. It's fine. And then they say, oh yeah, there's no problem with eggs. Feel free to eat them. I mean, scientists don't even agree. Well, I don't know if scientists agree. when you read stuff, whoever's making up the words and the stuff that you read, we can't even come to a consensus whether cholesterol is good and bad and what external cholesterol, how much it influences your overall cholesterol level. Does your body just make extra cholesterol in some people, less in other people? If you eat 5 sticks of butter, will your cholesterol spike? Or do you just have a sore stomach from sticks of butter in your stomach? I would like the data, but then what do you do with the data? You got to actually have somebody that can study it. I'm sure somebody's studying this stuff somewhere. I just don't know. I don't know is the answer.
Going back to the cold plunge to close on it.
Very cold.
Yeah. You said you see some positives from not having neck aches. You still do it every day. Is it mainly because of that? Or do you see anything else as a result when you get out or throughout the day?
No, that's it.
No alertness or...
No.
So why do you do it?
Hopefully so I don't get a neck ache. Plus, it's sitting there.
All right. Next topic. Texas. So looking at 2023, that was our big move.
Big state.
That's too. Very big state. Although California is a big state too. We moved from California to Texas. How do you see the transition? How are you enjoying it or not enjoying it?
Transition? I don't even know. What do you mean by transition exactly?
Well, I guess the whole move that we self-performed and then settling down in Austin, any changes between California to here?
The self-perform move, I'm glad is over. If I self-perform the next move, I need to take a diuretic or something. I'm not sure exactly. I'll have to figure this out. Or I need to get out and take more walking breaks. I'm not sure what it is. All I know is one of the worst side effects of the move was by the time I arrived, the whole bottom part of my body was extremely swollen or bloated, or I don't know what it was. But it was uncomfortable. And it took a couple of days for it to go away. So whatever that was, I need to solve for. The second thing I need to solve for is getting tires that don't go flat or shred themselves, because that's a huge waste of time and screws up your calculation on how long you can stay awake for. Also, I need a faster truck that maneuvers better. Because that also screws up your time calculations. Although I don't know that I'd want to drive a truck any faster than I probably was. Not very comfortable in a 26-foot truck with a trailer behind it. So, yeah, glad that's over.
But just for everyone, even to your first point, how long were you in the car for? Was it 4 days? Did you end up 3? Either for sure full 3 days or...
No, I think it was 55 hours, if I remember correctly. I don't know. Actually, no. 55 hours was how long it took me to drive from New Jersey to California. And this was longer, even though it was shorter.
So I think we left Sunday noonish time, or before noon. You got your first flat tire on Sunday afternoon or evening, I think around 5 or 6.
Yeah, like 6 hours into the drive.
So that pushed you back by at least, I want to say 10 to 12 hours because they weren't unable to repair it.
Yeah. I don't know how long it took. All I know is it was too long and it screwed up my calculations.
I think you arrived Tuesday very late.
Yeah. The flat tire and then the shredded tire, I think total was like 11 or 12 hours of downtime. And then being that I couldn't go 70, 75, I don't know how many hours that added, but it added a lot of hours, which stretched it out to where I had to actually stop and sleep for, I think, 4 hours, which was another 4 hours wasted, which was also a bummer. So I wanted to drive straight through. I didn't get New Jersey to California straight through like I had planned. I had to sleep 4 hours total on that trip too. So I was really hoping I could do the other one without having to stop. It seems like it would be shorter and I should be able to do it easier. But I think total time it was longer. So,
But I don't think you could nap at all, right? Because you didn't have a space in the cabin because it was all full with stuff too. So you were eventually in a seating position the whole time.
No, I got the truck. The truck actually was more comfortable to sleep in than when I drove out in my Subaru.
Really?
Yeah, I had my laptop bag that sort of had an angle to it, and I found a nice comfortable position where I could sort of be at an angle. When I did wake up, my legs were a little bit uncomfortable because I had sort of angled myself towards the passenger side, and I had put my feet sort of up, but they weren't able to be straight. So they were a little uncomfortable because they were sort of jammed, wedged maybe better, in between the door and the steering wheel. But, I mean, I was sleeping in the freaking truck. What do you expect? You're not supposed to be able to sleep comfortably in the front of a truck. That's what stupid people like me do when you don't want to stop and find a hotel. In fact, I was so tired that I don't know that I could have driven much farther when I did stop, and there was no hotel nearby. So it was either stop and actually sleep for the 4 hours, or who knows if I would have truly made it to wherever the hotel was. And then by the time I found a hotel, I probably would have been like, I'll just keep driving. And then I would have, who knows. But yeah, don't sleep in a truck. That's the takeaway. Also, don't try to drive from California to Texas in a big truck with flat tires. But the actual move to Austin, I mean, I think in general, people are a little bit more friendly. Not always, though. It depends on where you are. But in general, they will, I think in general, acknowledge that there's somebody alive in front of them. So like if you smile or nod at somebody, they'll usually respond. So that's nice. Just in case you're not sure if you're still alive, because there's no reaction. You could just be like a ghost walking down the street. You think you're alive, you know? Happened to Patrick Swayze in a movie, so it's possible, I guess.
Oh, that's right. It was a fun movie.
Yeah. Took him a while to figure out he wasn't alive. It's happened in a lot of movies, probably. There's a lot more roads and space. I mean, California's big, you're right, but for some reason, it just seems like there's way more roads everywhere in Texas. Not sure. That's still an interesting, weird thing.
How do you like the community we live in?
It's a community. I mean, it's good. It's nice. It's peaceful. Yeah.
How do you like some of the breweries around here in the area and food?
Breweries are good. Still got a few. Actually, there's probably a whole bunch that I haven't been to yet. The tricky part is, like, we went to one yesterday. It's quite a drive. Again, goes back to these roads. So many freaking roads. And everything seems to be so close but far away all at the same time. Plus, there's all the breweries and wineries that I drove by when I went to Houston, maybe. Yeah, but we found some really good breweries, but I'm sure there's probably, I don't know, probably haven't found more than 5% of what exists in Texas. So there's still some exploring to do. Found the one in, where was it? Carrollton, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah. Which isn't even local, per se.
What is that one called? I forgot. They have
Three Nations, I think.
Yes, Three Nations Brewing.
They sort of have two names. I'm not sure which one they actually use.
Do you have a favorite one so far?
I don't know if I have a favorite. I think that it probably depends on what they have on tap and what they have available, because they don't always have the same stuff. So depending on what they have, what's in season. Jester King's always good, but they have different stuff on tap. So like the slushie that we had the one time, they don't have that always. So that's sort of sad, because it's a good slushie if you feel like a slushie. Although it's wintertime, so maybe slushies aren't such a big deal anymore. But in the summertime, slushie's good. I have favorite beers from Three Nations, but they weirdly enough only had like 2 of the beers that I had tried previously on tap, and everything else on tap was different. So it just depends, I think, on the time and the season and what they have.
Mm-hmm. So we'll keep trying, see if we find our most favorite one.
Yeah, and just see what else there is.
Mm-hmm.
That way you're not stuck with the same brewery all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's fun to try different things. So transitioning to wireless, reflecting on 2023 and the things you've been putting your effort into, and perhaps what 2024 may bring if you want to forecast anything. What are you most excited about, or what do you think has been 1 or 2 items you would want to mention that you're working on?
2023 in review.
Any learnings?
I don't think anything groundbreaking as far as learnings. Everything takes longer than it should, but I don't think that's actually necessarily specific to wireless. I think that seems to be everything in life. Maturity of private wireless still has a long ways to go, but I think that was a known. I think that's my reflection on 2023. Maybe get away from it a couple more years and I'll reflect back differently, but right now I think that's all I got. Forecast. I was reading Salona's forecast 2 days ago for the space, which is interesting. I think they got a jump on the forecast because I haven't seen very many others come out yet. I've only seen 2 others. And made me think about writing a parody forecast and making fun of everybody who puts together forecasts. But I haven't decided if I'm going to do that quite yet.
What was their forecast? Do you remember?
I don't. But while I agreed with most of what they had, it also seemed like just common sense stuff. I didn't feel like anything was like groundbreaking, or it didn't stretch what could possibly happen or come about. Sort of like, I forget which show it was. Maybe Adam Carolla's radio show. Probably multiple radio shows back in the day, back when people actually listened to the radio. But I think it was Adam that I listened to. They used to, at the end of the year, put together a list of people who they thought was going to die the next year.
Wow.
And it's easy to forecast or guess somebody that's like, 90 years old and be like, oh yeah, Jimmy Carter's going to die this year because he's old and can't move. Or you could even say that of Biden.
It's interesting that they were able to do that.
Why?
I don't know. I just feel like it wouldn't be something people would want to read or be open to even being published nowadays.
They may not do it anymore. Right. And that type of radio, that was sort of what that type of radio was about. But picking somebody that was like younger, right? That would be the wild card, the fun one. So, yeah, the forecast was basically just all old people is what got picked. It was interesting to read through. It makes you think a little bit, but it would have been fun to have something a little bit more. At least one was like a wild card. So, I don't know what forecast I have for 2024. The safe one is things will continue to move too slow. People will continue to make things overly complicated. Or, inversely, maybe I try to make them too uncomplicated, too simple. I mean, I wish there was something exciting I could say about this, but I don't think there is. I think it's the status quo.
Human nature.
I'm interested to see how the DY guys progress this year. That'll be fun to watch because I still don't understand the true business model of the DY space. Either meeting some of them so they can explain it to me, or just seeing something that seems successful. That would be great. Here's a stretch forecast. I used to work at Dell. I forecast that they're going to come out with an actual real live commercially viable product this year.
Dell will?
Yeah.
On the wireless?
In the wireless space. Yeah. Not associated with servers.
Wow.
Not associated with their normal software partners that sit on their servers. Like something like a true, real wireless product.
In 2024.
2024,
They're
yeah.
going to launch it for enterprise.
They got 12 months. They can launch it for anybody.
Yeah. Okay.
They could launch it for dog houses. Something. They're going to get something out there in the market.
Nice.
That would be fun to see. I think that's all I got for this. I don't know.
Do you think any of the other things you've been working on in regards to enabling voice for private networks will materialize in 2024?
Great question. Yes. Yeah, sure they will. Apple's going to step up and do the right thing. Google's going to step up and do the right thing. And they will just solve all of those problems that exist and enable customers to actually utilize their phones the way that they should be given the right to utilize their phone, considering they bought their freaking phone. It's so weird to me that they haven't given consumers control over the part of the phone that consumers should have control over. It would be like I have these back and forths on LinkedIn with people, and they're like, well, the MNO, it's not in the MNO's best interest. And I'm like, well, okay, great. And they're like, and the MNO sells the phone, so it's branded as the MNO, and so they're going to get complaint calls. I'm like, okay, great. But now this is partially a bad example, but let's say the carrier controlled which apps you could download to your phone. Some consumers already have an issue with that. Like if you take the Apple ecosystem, you're stuck with Apple's, I forget what it's called now that I'm trying to say. App Store, yeah. Whatever they call it. You can't actually use a third-party app platform. And so then there's this whole side project for people who want to load other stuff to jailbreak your phone. I don't even know if that's still possible. I haven't looked at it in a long time. But you're basically, there is some control over that. That's by Apple, not by the carriers. But if the carriers limited what apps you could use, or the camera functionality, like you can only use, these certain features on the camera that's on the iPhone because we want to cut down on how much data goes on our network. So if you take a really high quality picture and you want to send it, well, we're going to squeeze it down to a crappy picture so that it saves resources on our network. Like, I don't think people would like that either. I just don't think people understand first of all, the control they're giving up, or that they don't get. So they probably don't know what they're missing. But I'm still amazed by the arguments, and I find them lacking in being convincing. I get that the carrier should have access to lock down what networks they see and what frequencies they see and all of that stuff, but the rest of it, I mean, shit. You pay $1,000 for a phone now. Some phones are more than $1,000. I don't know about y'all, but I mean, $1,000 is still $1,000 to me. I'd like to be able to use my $1,000 the way that I want to use it.
So, what specifically would you like to change? Maybe we should spell it out for those who are listening. I don't know if they fully understand it. I think they grasp the concept, but are there any specifics?
I've got a great list.
Yes.
It's actually,
I hear.
Yesterday it had 8 items on it. Today it's got 9 items. I thought of a new one.
Is there one or two you want to share with the listeners to make them think about what could be possible?
I'm going to start with the new one that I added.
Mm-hmm.
And this will actually be a fun space to watch, because I only partially understand the benefit of this too. But this is, I don't know what the exact word is, but something like direct to satellite cell phone service. But I was thinking this actually might apply more to private wireless than it does to carrier, because let's say you're a private network provider and you start collecting your monopoly pieces and you sell private networks and services to, I can't think of a great example right now, but some company that has a whole bunch of locations in the US, but they also have logistics, maybe like a Walmart. Maybe Walmart's a great example now that I start talking about what the whole thing is going to do. So let's say you're a Walmart and you have private wireless in all of your warehouses and logistics locations. And let's say you even put private wireless in your stores for whatever the heck you want to do in your stores. But then you've got a fleet of trucks that are going everywhere. And you want connectivity to those trucks while they're out on the road, as well as when they come into a store location or a distribution center. You either have to go roam over to the carrier's network, or let's say you're Walmart and you've deployed your own private networks everywhere else. Maybe you go directly to Starlink and say, Starlink, I want this type of connectivity for when all of my trucks leave my warehouse or store, so that I have constant connectivity to all of my moving pieces and parts. So that I could actually see having some kind of possible use, so that instead of having to work with a satellite company and a carrier, you could just go directly to the satellite company, and for the usage that you would have in between all the points that that truck goes, you wouldn't even need that much bandwidth. Probably it would be limited bandwidth. And if you're big enough, like a Walmart, you could probably negotiate decent rates for that connectivity. So that was my new add to the list this morning, actually. So now I've got 9 items on my list.
So it's more of IoT, or would it be?
Well, it could be
an iPhone, like a phone.
It could be IoT, but it could also be like critical communication, right?
Yeah.
So that the driver of the truck,
Yes.
if there's an emergency, they know they always have connectivity, because you don't always have connectivity when you have an M&O.
Yeah, especially if you're driving these big trucks and still
That's
probably a lot of rural US and parts.
I mean, there's just a lot of highway.
Yes.
And there's stretches of highway that have horrible coverage.
Yep.
And then, I mean, I don't know what they do on these trucks. Police, I mean, I don't know that police are big enough to negotiate rates that would make sense to have satellite connectivity, but they also, it seems like they have freaking a command center in each vehicle now. So like they've got at least one laptop in there. Who knows what's going on with that laptop? But I know some vehicles, or at least there's the capability for some vehicles to actually have license plate reader cameras. So as they're driving down the road, they're actually collecting data. That's got to offload somewhere. But they could push data to the laptops. Again, critical communication. I don't know if you need faster backup of body camera stuff, but body cameras seem to be all the rage these days. So you can take everything out of context and have riots. Anyway, yeah, that I actually see as something that
that's a good one.
The satellite connectivity might be useful for. In general, so the basic framework, and I don't remember my 8 points or 9 points now, which is why I have an actual list, because then I don't have to remember them. But the framework Apple started, so geolocation, so you actually know, actually more importantly, your phone knows when it should be in a private network and when it's not. So there's 2 great things about that. One is it turns on your SIM. Well, it turns on and off your SIM when you go into that location. So it's good for battery resources, but it also then allows your phone to do other stuff as well once it crosses that threshold or leaves that threshold. So geolocation is one. The second one is actual control over whether it hits 4G or 5G, which seems like that's a no-brainer, but carriers usually have control over that because it's the carrier network. Since this isn't the carrier network, you got to give control to either the user or the network provider or whoever it is it's managing the private wireless, because you may have a 4G network or you may have a 5G network. So your phone has to know what to do. Third one is to prefer, actually not to prefer, that's a bad way of putting it. to select whether you want your phone to connect to Wi-Fi or private wireless as the default. So some locations you would go into, you may actually want Wi-Fi to be your preferred. Some might be private. Some you might not care. But having the ability to select which one is your preferred connectivity method. And then the fourth one is when you're in a private network, and in theory geofenced, but I don't think it actually has to be a geofence for this to work on Apple's devices. But when you're within a private network and have zero macro coverage, then it will route your call to your primary SIM's IMS and terminate calls, or actually terminate IMS activity is a better way of putting it, but that would be calls, messages. The downside is you have to be in zero macro coverage, so you could be in unusable coverage, and it still won't work. You have to be in zero macro coverage. So that's what they added, which was a great first step in enabling some functionality for the enterprise or end user or private network deployment company. But they need to add, in my estimation, 5 more things, which is why my list is 9 long instead of 5 long.
Yep. Well, they all make sense for me, so I'm cheering for you, and hopefully you'll be able to make some progress. I think it'll be beneficial for the enterprises and private network providers and companies who build private networks, because I think it will improve the use case and actually make more sense for the people who want to install their and operate or just have their own private network. We have probably 2 more minutes.
2 more, okay.
Anything else you want to say about Christmas? Christmas coming up. We don't celebrate Christmas.
No, I don't really think I have anything to say about it.
All right.
It is definitely Christmas time, though. There's no snow. I would like to see snow. I always think Christmas and snow go together. That was one of the weird things about California, or at least the part of California that we always lived in when we lived in California. Never snow.
Yep.
Maybe up on the hill, but never down on the ground where we lived. So it's not Christmas really without snow. Even if it is Christmas, it's still not Christmas.
Yeah, I agree. It's weird. I'm also used to snow and Christmas. I wonder if this is because we both grew up.
Yeah.
Where once you know that Christmas and snow go together ever since you're a kid, you just put them together.
Yeah, I think so. If I would have grown up in Southern California, I probably wouldn't have done that. But even where I grew up, we didn't always have snow on the ground for Christmas, and it just didn't seem like Christmas without snow. So it would be interesting growing up somewhere without snow and Christmas, or just without snow ever. Like, could you imagine never seeing snow?
That would be sad.
Well, it's just interesting to think about, because I'm sure there's lots of people in the world who've never seen snow.
Really?
It's got to be.
Like, experienced it. Maybe you've seen it still on TV and you probably wonder what it is.
But that's not the same.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see somebody break their nose on TV, but until you broke your nose, you don't know what goes with it.
Yeah.
So the actual experience, which reminds me, I think people who are big into lived experiences should add snow to their list of things.
Mm-hmm. Good snow can be very fun. A fun snow day.
Yeah.
Maybe we should travel to some sort of mountains for snow.
No, I like it when the snow just happens spontaneously where you are.
Okay.
I don't need to see it so bad that I'm going to drive somewhere for it. Besides, we have rain.
True.
It's moisture. Close
and
enough.
Maybe it will snow at some point in Texas. There's typically, lately, a few snowy days randomly that come, so.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, Merry Christmas, Trevor. If you enjoyed this episode, I want to ask you to please do 2 things that would help me greatly. 1, please consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other podcasting platform that you use to listen to this episode. 2, please share this podcast with a friend who you believe might enjoy it as well. It is a great way to remind someone you care about them by sharing a conversation they might be interested in. Thank you for listening.